One of the questions that we all deal with is, what is our self-worth? Psychologists spend quite a bit of time describing the challenges we go through when we don't have self-worth. What do you think? What's your value? Unfortunately, many of us allow others to determine our value. So when your parents tell you you amount to nothing, you start believing your parents, and you actually don't even try hard, because after all, it was predicted you amount to nothing. Your self-worth is hardly here or there. The moment your self-worth is that low, you look down on yourself, you don't think you are of importance, you wonder even when you are created. Three things will follow. Number one, you will not be hardworking, because after all, you amount to nothing. Number two, you never have joy, because you wonder, how come I was created to amount to nothing, while others are having such important roles in life. And so you look down on yourself and live without joy. But number three, you could actually even commit suicide. So it's not a very, very good thing. So as we discuss this idea of self-worth, I think it will be important for you to ask yourself, how do you arrive at the issue of self-worth? How do you arrive? In businesses, what we call the net worth of a business, it is all assets minus liabilities gives you the net worth. What are the values the business have? The asset the business has? What does the business owe? The net possession is what the owner of that business really owns. And you must look at yourself and see that God has given you certain assets. And although there may be liabilities along with it, it's important to understand that liabilities never amount to the kind of assets you have. The liabilities are transitory and things you can go over. Your net worth is always positive. God created us all to have positive net worth. But the trouble is, we have wrong methods of measuring our net worth. And in the process, we subject ourselves to a wrong view. And therefore, we are not satisfied with who we are. And we want to be like somebody else. Yet God has created us where He has created us as ourselves. That's all we need to be. You can never be a good other person. You can only be the best you. So you need to come to where you accept yourself and value yourself and know that God, the way He created you, is worth it. Just looking at this, the kind of things that can make you measure yourself and see your net worth badly. Sometimes it's clothes. You want to go for a party, but you can't find a good dress. You can't find a good suit. And so you feel like people are going to think that you are not important because of the kind of clothes that you have. So you feel like hiding and not even going for the party. Because for you, your clothing is what makes you who you are. That's not a good method of measuring. Clothing is not a good method of measuring your worth. Matthew chapter 6 verse 30 says, if that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today, and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will He not much more clothe you, you of little faith? Here, Jesus is trying to tell us not to worry about clothing, because you are not your clothes. I know they keep saying that, but you are not your clothes. What I do admit is that when you come well dressed, the halo effect, that means the immediate reaction of the person you are meeting, will be positive. But you only need to talk for a while, and you are rude to me, and I will no longer value you. So do not give more worth to clothing than it really is worth. You cannot claim to be that your clothing is what, or you come very well dressed, and I have seen you in a meeting well dressed, only to see you next time in your casual clothing, and that's how you look like. Or maybe you come well dressed. Next time we are in a swimming pool, and I see you in your costume, looking very different, having scars in places that were otherwise covered. I think we need to revise ourselves. And I'm not suggesting we shouldn't be smart, but don't give your clothing more value than they actually are. You are not your clothing. You are not worth. Clothing is not what determines your worth. It will be important that you look at that. Remember, clothing cover the person. And behind the clothing may be a thief. No wonder he is so well dressed, so that he kind of gives you a halo effect that will make you not be careful with your jewelry. Then you still, that was a transitory thing, because you soon know his real worth. He's a thief, worth of being in prison. And so the clothing will not have, no. They say the days of a thief are 40. It means even if your clothing are hiding the real you, the 40th day will come, and we shall see who you really are. So even if you don't have good clothing, do not start thinking that you are not worthy because of your clothing. The clothing do not determine your worth at all. Like people things are changing, but in northern Kenya, you would go among the Turkanas or go to Mijikenda down in Mombasa, where hot places. They don't cover too much of their body. Somebody will greet you from far, looking according to the people who come from colder climate. They think, hey, that person is naked. What you don't know is that the people from colder climates don't just wear clothing for covering nakedness. It's also for warmth. It does not mean the person who comes from a cold place and therefore covers a lot is worth more than the person from the hot climate who does not cover much. So if you are walking and you meet a Turkana who has nothing on except a small cover for his private parts, he is still worth. You don't determine people's worth by the clothing they have. So do not allow others to determine you by the clothing you are wearing. And if they do, you know very well that they are not very wise. Don't agree to be measured. You want to be measured by the clothing you wear. It's not very wise of them, and you just ignore them. So we started by saying clothing do not determine your worth. But secondly, I want to say that your title does not determine your worth. That is your title at work, or your title as a profession. You are a doctor, you are a learned friend. You may have the biggest title, but title does not tell us the kind of performance you have. There are many people with big titles. He is a lawyer, so you go to his office, but within no time you realize their performance. You can't pay them, and in fact you regret ever having gone to them for help, because they are lazy, they are not serious with their work. So the worth you had because of the title, just like clothing make you have a halo effect. The title also gives you a halo effect. Wow, this guy is a doctor. So you start having a certain impression. But you only need to visit him, and the way he will treat you, the way he will talk to you, the way he will deal with your disease, he's not worth visiting ever again. And his worth, in your own estimation, goes way down. That's why your worth is not determined by your title. In Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 8, we read, "If you see the poor oppressed in a district, and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised at such things. For one official is hired by a higher one, and over them both are others higher still." In other words, titles cannot determine values, because even when you have a big title, there will be always somebody with a bigger title. You may be a manager, but there's a director above you. You may be a director, but there's a chairman above you. You'll be a chairman. But there's an AGM, annual general meeting around you. None of us doesn't have somebody above them. And that tells you, you may be even a president, but in 5 years, people will know your real worth and may never elect you again. So it's important to understand you are not your title. Do not allow the title you have to enter into your head. You cannot measure your worth with your title, whether at work or else. Professionals feels great even with a secretary on the side. But the way I'll finally value you is when I actually see your work, not your title. It is very important to understand that when you place value on your title, it will be important to understand that you are likely to be lazy because you think your title will cover up. No. People, all the title can do is give me an impression. But it's when I deal with you, I'll finally know who you really are. And your value is not your title. That means you may be a messenger at work, but you are so helpful to people. Everybody values you. If they hear there is something wrong that has happened to you, they will all be in your house to try to help. The managing director, nobody cares about him. They know he is not worth except having the title. So they will not bother with him. So your worth does not go by the title you have. How many people have been very useful in your life and yet they don't have big titles? So your worth is not related with what title you have, but how helpful you are to the person evaluating your worth. And that's really one of the things that we'll need to actually check. How is your worth? How are you dealing with them? And the titles are quite something. And what I'm encouraging you is, do not allow your title to lie to you. Therefore you are worth a lot because you have a big title. What matters is, are you valuable to the people you are with? Do you add value in their life? That's how they'll finally measure your worth, not the title you had. Okay, I repeat myself. I know that the title gives you a halo effect. What does halo effect mean? It means the initial impression. But halo effect is not something that lasts. It just sets my mind now to check whether you really are what you claim to actually be. And that will be very important. So it's important to ask yourself, am I cheated by my title? Do I feel like because I have no title, who are you? I'm Otieno. Who is Otieno? I don't know. Or who are your parents? Oh, they were just peasants anywhere. So you don't have a title you can talk about. But let that not cheat you. You are not worth. You can add value in people's lives that will make them value you in the long term more than the people who have come from a pedigree of some sort because of their history. And I think it will be important for you to understand that your title cannot determine your worth. You create your worth by how you deal with others and how you live your life and how you carry yourself, not your title. And I think that will be very important. But the next thing we want to look is wealth. A lot of people think that wealth determines their value. Their wealth determines their worth. And I'm here to tell you that your self-worth is not related with your bank account in any way. Your bank account may be green and big, but you are not your money. It's very important to understand that. And you need to understand that there are many people whose lives are valued by many, many more people, and yet their bank account isn't well. Then there are many people who are, like they normally call it, stinking rich. But that riches has made them worthless. It doesn't benefit anybody, and they themselves are not, nobody would want to be near them. They smell by the way they talk and the way they carry themselves. Nobody values them. Nobody values their fellowship, including their own parents, because of the way they treat their parents, including their own relatives, their own children, nobody cares about them. And yet, in terms of wealth, they are billionaires or trillionaires. So it's important to understand that, my friend, you may not be having a lot of money. You are not worth much. But you are able to eat. And you're able to cover your nakedness. And you have some form of shelter. My friend, once you have that basic one, and of course you will still call you poor, from then, how you relate with the people, how you add value to them, is what will determine your worth, not your bank account in any way. Let's just look at Ecclesiastes chapter 5, beginning at verse 10. It says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless, Solomon says. Are you hearing? If you love money, for example, you have a hunger for money, you will never have enough of it. Some people are billionaires, but they are mad that some people are richer than them. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. So you will therefore be leading and exploiting others because you are still trying to get richer. And your worth will keep going down, and yet your income is going higher and higher. Solomon was a very rich man. He made a discovery. If you truly love money, you will never have enough. You are so happy when you started getting an income of 10,000 per month. But then with years, you started getting 100,000 per month. Then in years, with all your businesses, you're able to get 1 million per month. And recently, you have now hit to where you get tens of millions every month. The truth is, as long as there is somebody else getting 100 million per month from his businesses, you feel dissatisfied, you feel unhappy, you talk rude, and you want to do anything on earth to get more money. So your worth will have a problem despite getting. And so the Solomon had seen something about these people who want to measure their worth through their income. Verse 11 says, as goods increase, so do those who consume them. And what benefit are they to the owners except to feast their eyes on them? You can only wear one shoe at a time. You can only wear one suit at a time. So what happens? Even as goods increase, God gives you expenditures that will use them. Like you become very rich, you die, within 2 years, all the money you had, your children have totally destroyed them and they are back to poverty. The children are back to poverty, despite all the money you left them. As goods increase, Solomon is saying, so do those who consume them. And the message he is giving is, do not be eager that you increase your wealth. Although if it increases, that's okay. But don't think you'll be happier when the wealth increases. Don't think your worth will increase when your wealth increases. You need to understand you can only wear one suit, wear one shoe, and eat on one meal. And that is very basic. You can get that at very low. So when you get very rich and you are fighting everybody, stepping on their shoulders, harming many people, and losing their respect just to make money, remind yourself you are not, wealth does not determine your value. Getting more, the Solomon is telling us, does not bring more satisfaction. The addition of, if it is coming, will not bring any happiness. Verse 12 says, the sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat little or much. But as for the rich, the abundance permits them not sleep. Something. You are not worth your money. Why is a rich man unable to sleep? Somebody told me, and I've never forgotten, that when you are very rich, it's like being on top of a tree. Where else can you go? So you hold tight onto the branch because the only way is down. But if you are on the floor, where can you fall? So you can sleep happily. But when you are a rich man, you go to sleep wondering, might the auctioneers come because of that loan I took? Or is my business is going to do well? Or the business climate is changing? So it means that the poor man is contented and worth happy. The rich man is living in fear of going back to the poverty he began from. And I think what he is telling us, you need to understand clearly that if you start measuring your worth with wealth, you will never enjoy your life. When you start seeing yourself as fulfilling a mission in life and happy that you're fulfilling it, whether it brings money or doesn't, you will live a happy life. And it's important to ask yourself, are you really living in such a way that you cannot be happy because you don't think much of yourself, and yet it's because you are measuring your wealth in a wrong way. But we read in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7, but we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. What is this teaching us? Our body, our figure 8, is not something that we can deal with.